Kate Larson is the author of the book Rosemary, the Hidden Kennedy Daughter. One of 9 children of Rose and Joe Kennedy, Rosemary's story has for many years been hidden as a secret, with little details known about how her life came to change the lives of millions.
I was working on another book in 2005 when I read Rosemary's obituary in the Boston Globe. It was in January. She had passed away at the age of 86. Like most New Englanders, I was aware of the Kennedy family. As a historian, I knew much of the Kennedy family story. I knew about Rosemary. There was just something about it that hit me. Like, we don't know that much about her, and why don't we know? And so at that moment, I said to myself that I really wanted to look into her life.
Larson began her journey into Rosemary's life at the Kennedy Library.
When I went, they had just recently opened Rose Kennedy's diaries and journals and letters, and I knew that I could find Rosemary's voice in those letters.
Rosemary's voice seemed to come through crystal clear for Larson, who describes her as a vibrant young woman who was full of life.
The letters were really charming because in many ways she was a typical young girl and loved fashion and loved beautiful clothes and loved to have her hair done, and you know, she was very much her mother's daughter. She was a typical teenage girl who was intellectually disabled.
It was Rosemary's intellectual disabilities that prompted her father, Joe, to opt for an experimental procedure he was hoping would heal her. Instead, the lobotomy changed the Kennedy family's life forever.
To their great credit, they tried over and over again to find resources to educate her, to take care of her. Joe and Rose were deeply concerned about what was happening to their daughter and the potential risks to her. So Joe looked into the prefrontal lobotomy that was being experimented. Once the lobotomy was completed in the operating room, the doctors knew immediately that they had cut too much of her brain matter. She could not walk or talk. She was incontinent. I don't think Joe imagined that his daughter would come out of the operation completely and totally disabled, but she did, and it ruined her life.
It was then that her sister, Eunice Kennedy Shriver, decided she was going to do something, not only to empower her own sister, but also to make a bold public statement that would inspire countless others.
Eunice was deeply and profoundly hurt by what happened to her sister. She grew up witnessing the way people treated Rosemary as a disabled child and young adult. She decided she was going to make the world a different place for people like Rosemary.
Eunice Kennedy Shriver decided to co-found the Special Olympics with her sister Rosemary, inspired by their own childhood.
Rosemary participated in everything that they did. When they played tennis with her, she wasn't a great tennis player, but they rewarded her for whatever she did on the court. And swimming, everything they did, they included her. And that's the Special Olympics: inclusion, accommodation, celebration, encouragement.
Do you think without Rosemary's existence and all the struggles that Rosemary went through, that something or anything like the Special Olympics would exist today?
Her legacy has really transformed this country, the world. It's a much better place to live for people with disabilities and their families.